bring the slides on, please? Okay, so I spent a lot of time researching and thinking about Web3 because there's no question in my mind that this is a paradigm shift that will change how global economies work in profound ways. And today, I will help you to get up to speed on where Web3 is and where it's going. And as part of today's talk, I recently asked some top industry leaders about how they think about Web3 as well, and I will share with you their insights too. And in fact, if you pay attention, the next 10 minutes will help you understand more about Web3 than probably 99% of the population. Wouldn't that be cool, right? Okay, so when we talk about Web3, the first use case that most people think of is payment. And Sam Bankman-Fried argues that blockchains are making payments cheaper and faster. And indeed, traditional cross-border payments cost a lot, while sending tokens on blockchains costs next to nothing. And it costs the same whether you're sending $1 or $1 million. But this comparison is not exactly fair because traditional payments have, legal and compliance costs and so on. And besides, if transaction cost is all we care about, then centralized payment rails like credit card networks are still cheaper and faster than decentralized blockchains today, even though the cost and speed of blockchains have improved dramatically over time. But what if I tell you that the core benefit of Web3 is not really cheap transaction? What if the real value of Web3 lies somewhere else? Now, Patrick Collison thinks that Web3 will extend financial access to underserved global markets. And indeed, if you look at digital asset adoption around the globe, there's something strange going on. Can you spot what it is? Well, the adoption level is not very correlated with GDP per capita. This is strange because usually rich countries have higher technology adoption. For example, they have higher internet and broadband and smartphone penetrations. But this is not true for blockchain. So the question is, what made blockchain and Web3 a global movement, reaching traditionally underserved markets? Now, I know some people will say, oh, because crypto is all financial speculation. It's tulip mania. Yeah, sure, there was and arguably still is a financial bubble in digital assets, and that's certainly driving a lot of activities. But if you believe that's all there is, I invite you to keep an open mind as we dig deeper on what this global movement is really about. Now, Balaji Srinivasan says Web3 is digital human rights and digital property rights. This statement tells you a lot about what's fundamentally driving the growth of Web3. And if I were to summarize the Web3 growth drivers with one word, it's ownership. Web3 is about giving people ownership. It's about leveraging technology to organize the economy that give people more ways to benefit from their contribution and more ways to own a slice of the economic pie. Now today, digital assets are drastically lowering the entry barrier of owning capital in many parts of the world. On top of that, Web3 is allowing users and contributors of a product to have a stake in the product's success. So think of it as a co-op ownership model that is made scalable by technology. And these factors are creating strong incentive alignment that is fundamentally driving the Web3 adoption today. Now, composability and interoperability is another core innovation of Web3. As Naval Ravikant puts it, unlike in Web2, where applications are siloed, Web3 applications can build on top of each other permissionlessly, and users can take their data anywhere they go. The result is you can have a digital economy that can innovate faster and is more flexible and resilient. We can already see this resilience playing out today. As I'm sure you all know, crypto market crashed big time this year, right? the entire market cap dropped 65% compared to a year ago. But what financial headlines do not tell you is that the actual activities on blockchain dropped much less. Active users across top smart contract blockchains today dropped less than 5% compared to a year ago. And transaction numbers dropped more but have recovered by almost half since Q2. So Web3 activities are actually quite resilient to the negative financial shocks that we've seen so far. And as you know, DeFi and NFT are the two main segments of Web3 activities today. And many people still think that NFTs are just JPEG pictures of monkeys. But as Punk6529 puts it, NFTs provide a neutral, interoperable ownership layer for all intangible goods. Now, neutral ownership layer is the key word here. Because Web3 ownership is portable, digital assets can interact in a worldwide network while being completely independent of any corporate platforms. Now, as many of you know, NFT prices also crashed this year, which led some people to conclude that NFT is just a passing fad. But let's look at some data, okay? Active users across two largest NFT platforms today is about the same than a year ago, while transaction numbers have increased over 200%. So data so far is not exactly supporting the hypothesis that NFT is just some transient anomaly. But you may ask, what exactly are the applications of NFT and Web3 in general? Because if you feel like the hype about Web3 today is much bigger than its substance, then you are correct. Take NFT, for example. Despite how many headlines they have generated, digital art is about the only use case that has taken off so far. But here's what Vinod Khosla has to say about it. He thinks that Web3 is passing its initial hype, and we are going to see it to transition from a movement to real utility. Now, there's not much data on this observation yet because we are really talking about a sector at its very inception. But an emerging trend is that existing businesses from Web 2 are starting to leverage Web 3 to create new business models and growth opportunities. So we may be entering a Web 2.5 stage, a crossover between two generations of the internet that can bring mass adoption to the Web 3 economy while re-energizing the Web 2 economy. Now, a backbone for all of that is tokenization, which is a main workhorse tool of the Web 3 economy. Tokens are really nothing new. In Web 2, we have things like airline miles and credit card points, which are essentially tokenizations of value that are siloed within a single platform. But when you combine tokenization with unified issuance standard, with permissionless network, with programmability, composability, that's where magic can happen. It can give expression to hidden values in an economy. It can create new industries and professions, and all of that can generate new layers of GDP and new income distribution modalities. Now, aside from Web3's growth impact, I also want to talk about its environmental impact. Energy consumption is a huge concern for blockchains that are based on proof of work. Good thing is, most of the smart contract blockchains today do not use proof of work. And Ethereum, the largest smart contract chain in the world today, transitioned to proof of stake in September. Fred Wilson calls this a big deal because going forward, environmental impact will no longer be a concern for the largest smart contract infrastructure in the world today, with Ethereum energy consumption dropping 99.99% after the merge. Now, Mark Andreessen thinks that we could see the entire global economy run on blockchain 30 to 50 years from now. I know to many people this sounds insane, right? But when you actually look at the data, that projection is actually not that crazy. Currently, the Web3 adoption is quite similar to the internet at the same time frame. Now, is it a sure thing that Web3 will follow the path of the internet? No. There are a lot of challenges around Web3 today. Regulations, for example, is a major uncertainty that can slow things down. However, if you had asked people in 2001, past dot-com bubble, is it a sure thing that internet would take over the world? Most people would have said no. So whatever you imagine Web3 will be in 20, 30 years, I want you to ask yourself, am I thinking too small? Because you probably are. And that's okay. None of us know exactly how Web3 will evolve, but one thing for sure is it will bring changes to our economies, and those changes will be happening fast and furious. Thank you.